Hi, my name is Lee Cavano. I'm president of Scranton Associates, a chemical manufacturing company in Strongsville, Ohio. The topic of this webinar is GHS, Global Harmonization. These are requirements that will take effect in June of 2015, and they'll have a major impact on water treatment. In this country, the GHS requirements will be under OSHA. So OSHA is the one who will be responsible for policing, I guess you would say, the SDSs, which will replace the MSDSs, as well as making sure that the new labels are in compliance. The main changes that we will see are in the SDSs safety data sheet, as opposed to the existing material safety data sheets, those will see the major changes, as well as the labels will see some major changes as well. The SDSs that are required have 16 sections that must be addressed, each section. Those sections are product and company identification, hazards identification, composition information, first aid, firefighting, accidental release, handling and storage, exposure, personal protection, physical and chemical properties, stability and reactivity, toxicological information, ecological information, disposal considerations, transport information, regulatory information, and the final section 16 is other information. All of 16 sections are required in that order to be in compliance for the new SDSs. A couple of changes is that Section 2, which is Section 2 is the hazards identification. That is going to be what is required on the label. And some of the products where the hazards are rather significant, Section 2 can be rather lengthy, but yet all of Section 2, without any deletions or without any additions, must be stated on your label. On certain products that are not shipped now as regulated by the DOT, there will still be some pictograms required in Section 2. Section 2 will also have a signal word which must be on the label, either warning or danger. Danger would be for the more severe hazards, warning for the less severe hazards. But the label itself, you would want to have the product name, your company name, and contact information, proper DOT labeling, a good general liability statement, and all of Section 2 from the SDS. Included in Section 2 is something new under GHS, which is the pictograms. These are the 9 pictograms which are edged in red, which would be reflected in Section 2 based on the hazard categories of that product. There's oxidizers, flammables, explosives, acute toxicity, corrosives, gases under pressure, health hazard, environment, and exclamation mark, which would be for irritant, thermal sensitizer, acute toxicity, narcotic effects, respiratory tract irritant. The health hazard pictogram, usually referred to as the exploding man, would reflect carcinogens, respiratory sensitizers, reproductive toxicity, target organ toxicity, mutagenicity, and aspiration toxicity. These pictograms are part of Section 2. They are required on the SDS. They are required on the label. There is no specification for the sizes of the required pictograms. As long as they are legible, I think that that's okay. If a product is being shipped as an oxidizer, then the oxidizer pictogram is no longer required on the label. That would just be duplication. The same thing, if a product is being shipped as a corrosive and it has the proper DOT corrosive labeling, then the corrosive pictogram would no longer be required on the label. They would still be required, the pictograms would still be required in Section 2 of the SDS. So that's the big change that we're going to see with global harmonization, is that the MSDSs will be replaced by SDSs. This is required by June of 2015, and the labels would be replaced as well. There is a provision for existing stock, which would be already labeled, up until December of 2015. But for the most part, I think water treaters make their products to order, and as of June of 2015, the new labels would also be required. So there's a lot of work involved with this. These are some major changes. Since I've been working in this business over 30 years, this is the one that probably is going to require the most effort of any of the others, in that determining hazard categories and the proper precautionary statements for Section 2 is a very time-consuming project. This has to be done by mathematical formulations for each and every component based on the hazards of that individual component. All of the required information for the SDSs and the labels can be found in the Federal Register, Title 29, Labor. That's Part 1910-1200, which is Hazard Communications. So with that information from the Federal Register, you would be able to develop your own SDSs and your own labels, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of time is going to be required for this. There are companies involved who can perform this for a fee as well, and those are options you may wish to take advantage of. But that pretty much is the big changes, and as I say, there's a lot of work required for this. And anyone who waits until the last minute, I think, is going to have some serious problems. And my main suggestion would be to try and make this transition as easy as possible, is concentrate on the products that you have that you know sell a lot. Everyone has a handful of products that are the ones that mostly they use. Start with those. You can always work on others as time allows. And one of the things I'd like to make an appeal for is to get some more volunteers involved with the AWT committees. The Legislative and Regulatory Committee, which I've been on for many years, I think is probably, if not the most, certainly one of the more important committees. These have a big difference on how we do business. If you're not in compliance with the regulations, there's the potential that you could be shut down by EPA or by OSHA. This is important stuff. And what I've always told our colleagues over the years is that if you're on top of the regulations, you certainly have a foot up on your competition. If you can go in and you see that your SDS is proper and correct and that your competitors have not provided SDSs, or if you can go in and you know that your product is shipped correctly from a DOT perspective and that your competition's has not, this is powerful information. All of the users want to make sure that they're in compliance. It's a liability question for them as well. So to be in compliance with the regulations involving water treatment chemicals is extremely important, and we'd like to get some more members on the Legislative and Regulatory Committee. We have a once-a-month conference call, which is not too time-consuming, and most of the members of our committee are about my age, which is too old. We're not the ones who are going to be running these companies over the years in the future, and the people who will be, the younger people, are the ones who really need to be aware of these issues. I had initially joined the Legislative and Regulatory Committee, not because I felt I had so much knowledge to share, but because I wanted to make sure I didn't miss out on anything that I needed to know. I didn't want to find out that all of a sudden I wasn't in compliance with something and it caused a big problem. So I joined to make sure that I was kept aware, and I think most of the other committee members have as well. But in the process, we've developed a lot of good information and been able to keep the AWT membership apprised of changes, such as this webinar, which is, again, probably the most important change I've seen in the last 30 plus years. And don't wait too long to get in compliance with this. This is important, and it will take a bit of time. So thank you very much for attending this webinar, and I will be available for questions and comments.